I'm gonna try doing it from this angle today. The camera's over there. So here's my piece. It's still in progress. I'm adding a bunch more eyes. I did this whole kind of, I don't know what that is down there. And then I'm trying to connect that section to this section, which I'm not sure I like it so far, but it's all a process. I find that with painting that it's more of a process than any other type of art that I've done. So yeah, I find that with painting it's much more of a long, drawn out process than any other art form I've done. Sketching and doodling and all that kind of stuff that I just do on paper is a lot more. It feels more spontaneous, I think. If I feel more bold when I'm working on paper or sketching, because I'm like, well, it doesn't really matter. So if it doesn't turn out well, then it doesn't turn out well, and it doesn't matter. So, and I know that that's when I do know, and I have known and experienced that when I work more spontaneously on paper, and I think I will get to that place with canvas eventually, but I have to give myself a break because this is my very first time working on canvas, and I don't know what the hell I'm doing, like to do. So yeah, I do find that when I work more loosely on paper, when I'm just doodling and sketching, that things come out that are really surprising, and I'm being more meticulous with this because that's kind of my way of being when I'm, it's a canvas. I don't know, it feels really special in a way that it's a canvas, and I think I'm gonna sew on it too. So that's an interesting idea. I'm gonna put some interesting 3D things, like little I don't know, jewels or whatever. I think that'll be interesting. I do find that I'm very critical of myself when I'm working on anything, but I think particularly on this canvas piece, I'm very critical of the process and how things are turning out, because I don't know what I'm doing. I don't have a plan. Like this whole section, I don't know what I'm going to do with this section. I've yet to work on it. So it's just a process. I didn't have a plan. I find that when I start a painting, that I will have kind of a thought in my head, like a vision of what I want to do, and then I'll just see if I can execute it with the skill set that I have. But I think I had a vision of wanting to have these floating hands and eyes, and maybe some weird heads floating around over there or down here, and then have some kind of ephemeral, wispy thing floating around, and some weird hands in the body. So I kind of envision it in my head a little bit, and then I just see if I can execute it. I don't plan anything out. I don't prepare anything. I do have a lot of drawings that I've done that I could definitely use as references, from my own art. There's actually a desire in me to take a lot of the pieces that I've done and make them into full canvas pieces, because I think a lot of them would look really cool as canvas pieces. But I almost feel like even doing that is cheating. I feel like I need to do something totally original, because it also challenges me more. So, yeah, so that's the process of that. Another thing that I wanted to talk about is that, a few things, is going back to this thing about what is success. I wanted to talk a little bit more about what I feel about that. And also doing art for art's sake, because that's a lot of what I'm doing these days. is I've always painted and drawn for my own joy. But, so I'll talk about that next. So the first thing is, what is success? What is the definition of success for me? For me, I've I have struggled a lot with the idea of success and wondering what that means for me. And somebody wrote a really beautiful comment in the last video that was very insightful and sensitive to um, the fact that, like, my own sister had said that I was a failure and how that affects me. Is that it doesn't feel good to be called a failure by your own family members. And they said something about how it seems like your sister only associates success with being, taking the talents that you have and using them to make money. And unfortunately, this is the way society is. This is the way my father is as well. He's very supportive of my art, for example. He's never been that supportive of our music, even though he helped us make like 5 or 6 albums. But he's always been very supportive of my art, and he's been more in the space of, like, you can make millions off of this art. I think you can. I think you can become one of the most legendary, blah, 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 blah. But it's more focused on making a lot of money and buying a big house and having a bunch of fancy cars and stuff, like he has. He has a big, beautiful house in Florida and a really nice car. And he sees that as being the definition of what success is, because he said to me once, like, when you have a certain kind of car, for example, or a certain kind of house, and it's really nice, people treat you differently. People treat you better. And I said to him, I didn't say this, but in my head I'm going, like, I would never want to associate with people based on what my material possessions made them feel towards me. That's not the way I want to associate with anyone. And actually, a lot of people that we've known, every person that we've known that we've been close to and we've developed a close relationship with, has been based on that they see us for ourselves and love us for who we are and for our talents, and they don't look at what we have or how much money we have. They just love us for us, right? That's very rare and very precious, I've found. But unfortunately, as a society, we have come to this mutual understanding or agreement, or it's something that society has pressed down upon us and told us that this is true, that success is defined as making lots of money and becoming recognized and lauded and praised and world-renowned and all that stuff, namely as a creative artist and a performer. And that if one, as a creative artist, as a painter, or as a singer, or as a dancer, or just does that for their own joy, that's seen in generally as being a failure. And there was actually a comment a while ago from someone saying that pursuing art for art's sake is a waste of time. Doing it when you're not going to make money is totally useless, waste of time. And I totally disagree with that. That goes into art for art's sake and how important that is for me and for all artists, actually. But even though Thoth and I have been very much outside of the realm of what is societally acceptable, that pressure to succeed has been on me for quite a long time. And I wanted to succeed. I wanted to achieve, and still can sometimes feel that way. Sometimes I can still feel this feeling that I failed, and because the art that I make, the music that we make, my voice, singing, it doesn't make us it doesn't gain us anything anymore. And it never necessarily did in the way that it could have possibly. That from a societal standpoint of having achieved, all of the dreams that I wanted to achieve with what we do, there was a lot of time in which I've wanted to, like, be on all the big stages, play it, sing at the Met, do with our music, with our own creation, with our own operas. Even a few months ago, somebody left a comment saying that, the Met really has missed out on, commissioning you guys to do an opera. And that sent me down a whole rabbit hole of like, well, that's what I really want, and how could we do that, and how would that be possible? And it's not possible. Because places like ooh, that smells good. Places like the Met and things like that they're very prestigious, and they're all about having accolades. And, when they commission someone to do an opera, they commission, Philip Glass, or, to do like a modern opera. It would be somebody like Philip Glass, maybe Meredith Monk. And Meredith Monk has been commissioned to write operas. Not at the Met. I think she should be. Woof woof. Bark at the lights. Bark at the trees. But this is because these people have prestige. They have, I think even Bobby McFerrin was commissioned in San Francisco somewhere to create an opera, and I think he never managed to do it because I don't think he has the skill set to do that. Writing an opera is very hard, and we've written a couple in a very simple way, where we've written for violin and then improvise with voice and create a story and a narration in the simplest way. But I have had dreams of having stages where we could, hire people to play characters in our operas, and have a band, and have like a bassist and a hand drummer and a keyboardist, electric keyboardist, and have like, like you've heard our loops, but have those like played live by a band and expanded upon and made into, we've done what we can as two people. And basically, like, the loops that we play are kind of like what we've always heard in our heads backing us up, but now we have them playing. But if we had a band, that would be... But a band costs money. It's expensive. Thought had a band for a while. But they require, payment, and we'd have to travel around with them, and it would be very expensive. And it's not worth it if we don't have any reason to do it. So we've managed just the two of us. And our success comes from the fact that we've done everything we can by ourselves. We've done it all independently and alone. We've written and recorded several albums, a few operas. We've performed a couple of our operas in places that we could perform them. Very simple spaces with a couple dozen people at a time, maybe. We had our Martha's Vineyard show where we did Echenier 10 years ago, and we had a really nice big audience. But it's like in the 15 years we've been performing, it's how many times have we actually gotten to perform on a stage, But I think that's true for many artists and many performers, is they have a lot of dreams and a lot of things they want to achieve, and they're only able to do as much as they are able to do. I thought that I do what we're able to do, and that's the definition of our success, for me. But I can get pulled into a hole of, sadness, of feeling that, I wish that we had been able to do these things that I've wanted to do, like be on a stage and have an audience and all that. But that requires things that we don't have access to. We don't have a manager or an agent or any of those things. We're not known enough to attract that kind of thing. I don't know. Something could happen someday, but I don't have as much. I used to be really gung-ho about it and think that it would happen. But that was also because we were street performing all the time, and I thought that we'd be discovered, Because that does happen, where street performers are discovered and signed to a label and have success and fame and all that. I'm having to, these days I'm really having to like redefine what success is for me. Because these days I do everything for myself. That goes into this next thing. to be able to be creative for my own joy, for my own self, and not have to do it for anyone or for the sake of anything or for any kind of recognition or anything like that, is another definition of success, is that I can now pursue all the things I want to pursue. I mean, I'm getting to paint on canvas for the first time in my life, and I don't know where it's going to lead. I don't know what's going to happen with it, but I know that it's really good for me to do it, and I'm able to manifest something that's in my imagination. And actually I was talking to our friend Wim from Puerto Vallarta yesterday, and he's an amazing digital artist who is like a professional, makes a really good living at digital art, and has been doing digital professional commercial art for decades. And he, actually, when we met him on the very first day that we flew out to Puerto Vallarta, very first day of our, traveling ever since after the pandemic had happened. I thought this smushing me. You smush her? You smush? So he said to me, I remember I had my art with me, and I showed it to him, and he showed me his art, and he said to me, you're an artist. You're a real artist, because you do it for your own joy, and you do it for your own, because you must do it, and there it is. You make it, and there it is. There it is. And you're not doing it for praise or approval or money or anything. And another person left a comment the other day saying, I would buy your art because I can see that you do it for your own joy. And that's really sweet. I'd be curious to see if anybody would want to buy this when I finish it. It's curious to me if anybody would. And I don't care. I probably would be very hard for me to part with it, because actually all the pieces of art that I have is impossible for me to part with. Though it probably would be good for me to part with it, because I don't know if we'll be here forever in this house, in this area. And if I develop, hundreds of canvases, I'm just dragging around with me. That's a reason why I've not painted on canvas until this moment, because I was like, oh, well, I'm just going to be dragging around hundreds of canvases with me everywhere. Who knows what happens. So what Wim said to me yesterday is that, he is not able to paint or make art or work on canvas for his own joy. He said to me that he's forgotten how to do that. And I was like, wow, what a thing to say. And Wim is an incredible artist. If you look him up on Instagram, it's Wimpressions. That's full word. WIMPRESSIONS. It's just, he has some of his stuff up there. And he's just incredible really skilled digital artist. And he actually really helped me a lot when I've done a lot of digital pieces on Procreate. I was doing a lot in Mexico, actually, last year. And he helped me he's really good at, like, depth and shadow and highlighting and all that, and making building shapes instead of using lines, which I like lines a lot. Making shapes, like with this thing, I just built like a shape of this thing and then painted it, and I really liked that. A lot of the times I do lines, and there's a lot of depth with creating like shapes and shadows and highlights and stuff. So, and Wim is really good at that, and he actually helped me a bit. We sat together at lunch somewhere in Puerto Vallarta, and he kind of showed me on my iPad how to create shapes and shadows and highlights. It was extremely inspiring and helpful. I've never really had an art lesson before, and if we were in Puerto Vallarta, I would definitely want to, learn from him more about how to create more depth in my work. But anyway, him saying that about how he can't create for his own joy anymore because he's so used to making money, that he doesn't know, he doesn't even remember what it's like to create for his own joy. And he told me from the very beginning, the first day I met him, he said, don't ever lose that. Don't ever lose the ability to just create for your own self. And I was like, I won't. He said, if you ever become professional, continue to paint and draw for your own joy, because it's really important. And that, him saying that he couldn't draw for his own joy, I said, well, I can relate to that in regards to music and singing, that I have had trouble, especially over the last couple of years, since we've not been, like, performing in the same way that we were, like, 5 days a week, grueling away, 2 hours a day, 5 days a week, like a job. It felt like a job to me for a while at the end. It felt like work. It was very hard at the end for me to keep going, keep motivation up and all that. And I said I could relate to that in regards to my singing and music, is that in the last couple of years it's been really hard for me to be like, well, what's the point of singing or playing music or making music if I'm not going to make a living at it anymore? Because we made a full-time living for 15 years playing music. And things have changed. But him saying that just made me really think about how important it is to continue to sing and play violin and make music and practice music and create music, even though I'm not making a living at it anymore. And also to still be like my fabulous, beautiful self. Thoth definitely has taught me that. Just look at him, he's so beautiful. He gets all dressed up to just sit on the patio and have tea and play with Mimi. And he's been like that for as long as I've known him. He dresses well and takes care of himself. And I've been like that too. I'm like that too, of course. But I think for a long time I was doing makeup and costuming and stuff because I wanted attention. I wanted people to like me. I wanted people to approve of me. I wanted people to say something to me. I remember being in Lisbon all those years ago and doing 3 hours worth of makeup and wanting people to be like, oh wow, and like really pay attention to the details of the piece that the makeup look that I'd made. Because it was very, my makeup stuff is very similar to my painting stuff, as it takes hours of time and is very detailed. And I would do it, but I would do it because I wanted people to look at me and be inspired or impressed by me. And I still need to find a way to be creative from, in that way, to do makeup, to sing, to play violin, to do all these things. And I am. And it's interesting, the last couple of days, since I've actually been getting better from being sick for so long, I'm still a little bit congested. I've just been singing in our house, in the bathroom. It's very resonant and nice in there. And it's amazing how my voice is still so pristine, and I'm able to do all these runs and interesting things with my voice, all improvising. And my violin playing has gotten better, and it actually is really enjoyable for me. And Thoth has mentioned many times that the whole point of everything, especially now, is for it to be enjoyable and not to feel like a chore. Even exercising in the morning, though that can sometimes feel like a chore. Getting up early, exercising, taking care of ourselves, being creative, it's that it needs to be enjoyable and not a chore, because we're not in a position where we have to do like chore-ish, belabored, painfully difficult stuff. And we never have been. But, yeah, so that, like I said, that really is the definition of success for me, is that we can just be. We can be our fabulous selves. We can be alone. We can just do our own thing. Make videos, post content about things we want to talk about, make art, practice music. Thoth can do his walkabouts, or just sit and drink tea, whatever it is we want to do, eat food, talk to each other, sometimes see people, see friends that we want to see, because most people are not kind of boring to me. So I'm very picky about who I want to commune with. And the other day I got to speak to some lovely friends of ours from the other side of the world, which was really nice. Um, so, like, we can just be ourselves and exist, and it's okay. And there's nothing we have to do to, like, prove our existence or try to, like, make something happen. We can just create. And that is the most important thing in life to do for us as creative people, is, for me, is to just create. And creating is the most important thing. Any of the whatever else that happens in the world, that people going, oh wow, it's so cool and whatever, or wanting to buy it or whatever, doesn't matter as much as actually doing it, creating it. And it's a process. It's definitely, like, this is such a process, and this is a relatively small canvas, so I'd be interested to see when I start working on larger canvases. Um, but it's pretty amazing that basically within a year of time, we were, like, last August, we were with our friends Women Maya in Amsterdam, who are also really lovely artist people, and I showed Women Maya an art book that I'd finished, and it was a small book that I'd traveled with for the last previous year, and I had finished it while we were there, and then I bought a larger book to work in. And I remember him saying to me that you should work on canvas. You should work on larger pieces and work on canvas. And they actually bought me a canvas that I made a bunch of mess on before we left. So I'm really grateful that I'm getting to do that after only a year of being away from them and realizing that that's what I really want to do. And I've always wanted to do. The next thing to do is get a sewing machine and start making clothes again, which is something I've wanted to do for a long time. That's the thing about being settled somewhere, like actually being somewhere for a while, is that I can get things and do stuff that I really want to do. It's funny that it's taken like 6 months of being here for me to start working on canvas like I wanted to. And yeah, it's all a process. It is.